When I was a kid, I liked playing with toys that I can build things out of, such as Legos or Lincoln Logs. And then as I got older, I sort of graduated to Erector Sets. And that's the best way I can describe this knife from Pichi Design. This is the KAMETA. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right, but I'm guessing the designers of the KAMETA here had sort of a similar childhood as I did. But let me explain further. You can't really build this knife from the ground up. As of right now, you could just swap out the scales, which is nothing new by any means. But the KAMETA here is made up of 3 different pieces for the scales for each side, where you can customize with different materials and different colors. The pieces here stack on top of each other and are held in with just these 2 T6 screws. And once those 2 screws are in, those pieces are holding on pretty tightly. I mean, these are the FRN scales right here, and there is virtually no play at all. When I say virtually, there is no play at all with these scales. So this is a unique feature right here with these swappable scales for almost endless customization. So like I said, these are the FRN scales, the olive color FRN scales. Pichi Design also sent me a few other scale options right here. This is the stonewashed titanium scale. And then down here, if I can get it out, this is the amber and black G10 scales. And they do have different inlay shields. This centerpiece right here, that's the version Pichi Design sent me, but I did see a few other versions available. I saw a titanium version and a brass version, which I thought was really cool. But this is a really unique looking knife here. So check out that blade. I'll give you guys a nice close-up of that blade. That is a VG10 blade. And when I first saw this knife, I thought it was an upswept blade, but when I got my hands on it and turned it upside down, you can see it is a straight back Tonto blade, and that straight back leads into a flat handle. So you can see it's not exactly flat, because there is a little bit of play there, but overall it's generally flat. So it just looks like it's upswept because of that upswept blade surface right there. And the aesthetics of this blade is pretty cool, I think. There's a lot of angles going on with this blade. You can see it's very angular, but I don't own many Tonto blades that are designed like this. It's really unique, especially in my collection. And now let's talk about that VG10 steel. I'm a fan of VG10. I love VG10 for my work knives. Do I consider the KAMETA a work knife? Not at all. This is more of an artsy, stylish knife. I wouldn't carry this knife at work at all. I'm just saying I like VG10 for work. It's a good mid-grade steel at a budget price that has really good edge retention and really good corrosion resistance. So like I said, it's a really interesting choice for this knife. So I like VG10 for my work knives, not necessarily in a knife of this style, but the good news is Pichi Design will be releasing other blade materials for this knife in the future. As far as I know, they're looking at S35VN, S90V, and a Japanese 189 steel, which I would love to see the KAMETA here with an S90V blade material. Also, I would love to see other blade shapes as well. Maybe a drop point, a Warncliffe, a sheep's foot. I think that would be really cool with these customizable scales here. So if they start releasing other blade shapes and other blade materials with this customizable handle scale design right here, then it would truly be the Erector Set of knives, because you can literally just build your knife from the ground up. So I think the KAMETA here has tons of potential, but let me go over some of the other features here. It is a rear flipper, and I'll give you a close-up of that rear flipper tab right there. It sits a little bit higher than the pivot, so there is some pretty good action here. The drop shut isn't the greatest, which isn't a big deal. You can see having a little bit of trouble with that drop shut. I have to give it a little bit of, it's a little bit of effort to drop it, but I can easily fix that with adjusting the pivot here. But there's one problem with that as well. You can see there is a proprietary pivot right there with, I don't know, you can see that triangle. I'm not really sure exactly what that is. And I looked in my tools. I don't have anything that can adjust this pivot as is right now. And I looked through the box here, and Pichi Design didn't give me anything that would fit that pivot. So I can't really loosen the pivot up right now to adjust this drop shut. But that's not saying that the action is bad or anything. It feels very, very smooth. Ball bearings in that pivot. I'm just guessing there's ball bearings in that pivot because that's what it feels like. I haven't gotten in there to look or anything like that, but I'm guessing ball bearings in that pivot. There's also a steel liner lock right there. So it's a steel liner lock, but everything else, the actual knife itself, is made of grade 5 titanium. And the grade 5 titanium goes all the way up into the lanyard attachment right there. And you might be asking yourself, why no pocket clip? There is no pocket clip on this knife, at least the one that they sent me. But rest assured, when this knife comes out, it will have a pocket clip. But if I show you these images from their Kickstarter page, they do have a wired pocket clip that does fit within these scales. So it's a deep carry pocket clip, wired. It will come with the knife if you order it. It's just disappointing that I can't show you and demonstrate that to you in this video. And as of right now, your choice of scale materials are FRN, which, like I said, these are the olive colored FRN scales, available in 5 different colors. There's also a carbon fiber option, a shredded gold carbon fiber, which looks really cool, a G10, which I showed you in here, and the titanium, the stonewashed titanium scales there. So how easy is it to change out these scales? Actually, I have no idea. I haven't done that yet, but I'm going to do it right here in this video. I'll probably put on these titanium scales just to show you guys what that looks like. I'll just speed up the video so you guys aren't just sitting here watching me change out those scales. How boring is that? But once again, you're going to need a T6 bit. I'm not exactly sure why Pichi Design went with the T6 over the T8, but I already went ahead and changed out my T8 for the T6. So just give me a few minutes and I'm going to put these scales on. I'll be right back. All right, well, there you go. So that was just one side right there. So it wasn't that bad. I had a little bit of an issue with this bottom piece. It was sort of stuck on there because I haven't taken these off yet. But overall, that was actually pretty easy. FRN scales on that side and the stonewashed titanium. So just give me another minute and I'll put on those black and amber G10 scales on this side. So let's go. All right, there we go. So this has taken me right around a minute to change these scales. So once again, I had a little bit of an issue with that bottom scale again. I'm not really sure why. It's just, I think because they're stacked on top of each other, that bottom piece takes a lot of that pressure. But I got it off, and that's what the amber and black G10 scales look like with that inlay. So stonewashed titanium and G10. So I think Pichi Design has something here. I really like the option of swapping out these scales to customize this any way you want. And once they start releasing some new blade materials and hopefully maybe down the road some new blade shapes, I think that'll be really cool for this knife. As of right now, I'm probably not going to carry this knife because there is no pocket clip. I have to have a pocket clip with my knives. I'm not the biggest fan of knives just hanging around loose in my pockets, but it's unique enough where I think I could carry this and get some use out of it, especially with this unique blade shape here. I think I can get a lot of use out of this knife. Maybe not necessarily at work, but I think it would make a pretty cool EDC knife, especially taking this out of your pocket. I think it's a conversation starter. You don't see many knives of this style here. But as unique and cool as this knife is, it does have a few negatives that I feel like I should mention here. The first one is I wish I had T8 screws instead of those T6 screws. I'm not really sure of that design choice. I wish it was a T8 screw though. Another negative is when I was using this, getting ready for this video, I noticed a slight hot spot back here on this lanyard attachment. So you can see it's fairly sharp right there. And when I'm holding it, that little sharp edge keeps digging in to the edge of my hand right there. It's not a big deal. I sort of adjusted my grip when I'm using it, but because of this unique end right here, this sort of sharp end where this lanyard attachment is, it is sharp and that will dig in to the side of your hands. It's been happening to me, so I thought I should mention that. And the last negative is this proprietary pivot right here. If I want to adjust this pivot, I can't. So I'm not really sure why they decided on this triangular shaped pivot where it's not common at all. I definitely don't have anything that would adjust that, and it doesn't come here with the rest of the knife. So maybe down the road when they release more scale options and more blade options, they can adjust this pivot to make it more common for everybody that wants to adjust that pivot. Because right now I want to adjust that pivot and can't do it. I have to go out and buy a specific bit. And I forgot to mention the specs here. So overall, this is 7 inches long. That blade is 2.8 inches long, and closed up, it is 4.2 inches long. And it's a fairly lightweight knife as well. Take off all the scales and leave yourself with only the grade 5 titanium body and the VG10 blade. It's only 63 grams, so that's fairly lightweight. And if you're using the carbon fiber scales or even those FRN scales, it doesn't really add much to that. So this is really lightweight, which I appreciate. But other than that, I pretty much went over everything I wanted to talk about with this new knife from Pichi Design. Right now, Pichi Design does have a Kickstarter going for this knife. If you're interested, I will put that link down below in my description box if you want to donate to their Kickstarter and grab yourself one of these really unique build your own knife Kameta knives here. If you're somebody that loves to customize your knives, I think this will definitely be the knife for you. So check out that link down below in my description box.